And now, our feature presentation.
I like it spooky.
Hey everybody, welcome to I Like It Spooky Horror Podcast. I'm Brian.
I am Clint, and Brian recently shared a video expressing his feelings about negative comments towards the upcoming Camp Crystal Lake streaming series.
Do we really need another Friday the 13th TV show or movie? Do we really need a prequel story? Do we really need for you to shut the fuck up? The answer is yes.
Although I will do my best to be objective, by the time I am done with what I have to say about Evil Dead Burn later in this episode, Brian and others might be telling me,
"Hey man, just want to let you know that sometimes you gotta shut the fuck up. And this current time is just one of those times you gotta shut the fuck up.
I don't think you're a bad person, I just don't want to hear you talking anymore. You gotta shut the fuck up."
So the first thing, and this just hit the news today, sad news, Kaylee Hoddle, who played a deaf actress in 2 of the Kong vs. Godzilla movies, has died at age 18. I don't know if you've seen either of these. She played the little girl that communicated with Kong. She was the last of her tribe.
I didn't see either. I just saw the article and I didn't read it, but she looked familiar, so I'm curious if she did other things as well.
She was deaf in real life, and she played a deaf person in the films. And I haven't told Finley yet. 18 in a car accident, she passed away. So just super sad news.
So does Finley at her age have a grasp of the concept of death?
I don't think so. Maybe a little bit, but not completely. I feel like her first real dealing with passing away or death is going to be when one of our dogs dies, and they're both 9 or 10.
I was curious because if she did, I wonder if it would hit home, being that this passing is someone close to her age. If it was grandma or grandpa, which is never fun or anything, it's still, they're ancient. Did you have a celebrity death that hit you, like when Kurt Cobain died and people were crying and lighting candles? And
Oh, Eddie Guerrero, Owen Hart, any of the people on wrestling that have passed, and then you watch Raw the next night and you're just like, fucking Jesus Christ.
My big one was Sam Kinison. I remember when Sam Kinison passed away. I remember Friday night I was watching the Sam Kinison comedy special, and I went to bed, and I got up Saturday morning. I turned MTV on. Right there was the report that he had died in a car crash. And I remember, I didn't cry or anything, but it was the first time where I was just, whoa. It hit me like, wow, that's weird. That's not cool at all. It was a shitty feeling.
Sam Kinison wasn't that old when he passed away.
No, I want to say he was mid to late 30s.
God, he looked a lot older.
Yeah, I could be wrong about the age, but, well, drugs and diet and the 80s lifestyle.
Because I know that's the popular version of what went on there. I know a lot of people like to believe that. I wish I could, but I was there. I wasn't here in a classroom, hoping I was right, thinking about it. Well, pussies like you, we're back here partying, putting headbands on, doing drugs, listening to the goddamn Beatle albums.
My next news, and if you follow our social media, you see that Peacock has officially announced that all 8 episodes of Crystal Lake, the new Friday the 13th prequel series from A24, will premiere on October 15th, which is, I think, a Thursday, which is also weird because why not just premiere it on October 13th if you're going to put it out in the middle of the fucking week?
Or put it on a Friday.
But I'm excited for this. It looks interesting. The actress playing Pamela, I fucking love her. She's great in everything I've ever seen her in. I'm excited for this one. And I've seen, like I said, people are like, oh, do we need that? Do I need anything? Do I need Evil Dead Burn? Do I need Friday the 13th Part 18 or Halloween the Remake 42? Did I need 15 Phantasm movies? No, but if I enjoy it, just let me fucking have it and have a good time.
When I watched that video, I'm fully for everybody expressing themselves, and I didn't disagree with you. I will go on record. Here we go. We'll get a little spicy on the episode. I disagreed with how you presented what you said, just because we're public entities to a degree. And so what we do is we critique. So you were kind of getting at these people for critiquing something. And all I could think of is, Brian, what are you doing? We have a show and it's open to the public. And the second we like critique a movie on the bad side, that video is going to haunt you for the rest of your life.
Well, they may want to skip this episode then.
They definitely want to skip this episode, although I think we are in the majority based off what I've seen and heard about Evil Dead Burn. But yeah, we've been talking about the Camp Crystal Lake series forever. And I think the new news right now is, because I think the release date had already been out, but that they will be releasing all 8 episodes at once, which it's not really new to streaming to do that either. I think Netflix, when they do the Wednesday series, they do it in little chunks, don't they? Like 2 or 3 episodes and then next week 2 or 3, or
piece it out so they can get more numbers, more people watching. And then my last thing is from Bloody Disgusting. Dead Meat has announced the Fresh Meat short film competition, with winning shorts getting a theatrical release this Halloween season. You know, I do love my short, scary movies, so this would be interesting to check out.
That was actually one of the things I was going to report about, and it says it's hosted by James A. Genesse. Sorry, James, I'm screwing up your name. And Chelsea Rebecca. Never trust anybody with 2 first names. The mega popular YouTube channel Dead Meat. What I love about it, it says they're partnering with Atlas Entertainment's Atlas Literary and Hades Film on the project. Submissions open up Saturday, July 25th, so they've already opened, and they closed Monday, August 24th. Shorts from around the world are eligible, provided English is the submission's primary spoken language, and a $50 submission fee applies. Goes on to say that how it will work is roughly 10 films will be selected from the submission pile, and they'll be put together in a feature film anthology experience. It looks like they plan to release the Fresh Meat anthology into theaters on October 12th.
Ooh, I'll be there. Hopefully it comes down my way so I can see it, or it's in theaters for a little bit and then they put it out somewhere you can buy a copy on physical media or watch it on streaming.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's going to be a limited release for sure, but a lot of the indie projects that have been coming out that we've talked about for the past couple of years, they get that limited release, but it's still scattered enough where it seems to be, it's within driving distance of everybody.
So what do you got for news?
Well, that was it. You took my news. No, I got a couple more. That was my heavy hitter right there. But real quick, a few episodes back, I was talking about Motor City Nightmares doing Camp Hollow Hills in the Irish Hills, not far from Haunting in the Hills, Labor Day weekend. I'm not going to go into a whole lot about it because I don't know a whole lot about it other than Tommy announced that it's been canceled. It's not happening. I can only speculate that it may be there wasn't enough support. Maybe there wasn't enough money generated from pre-ticket sales. I'm really not for sure. I just know it is not happening. They did announce a couple bands. They did announce a few guests, and now it's not going to happen. Moving on from that, my other piece of news. Last episode, I talked about animated Dark Shadow series. This episode, I discovered that they're going to be releasing, this is from Fangoria.com, an animated Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. The rotoscoped reimagining will be entirely hand-drawn without any use of AI. And it says Dark Sky Films and Exerbia Films have announced that a hand-animated rotoscoped version is currently in production, aiming for a 2027 release. It goes on to talk about the director, but this is, I think, the important part, because I didn't know what rotoscoping was. For the unfamiliar, rotoscoping is a pioneering animation technique that was used in early Disney classics like Snow White and Cinderella, as well as animated features including Lord of the Rings, Heavy Metal. I love that. So that kind of gives you an idea, that sketchy moving line style, and Fire and Ice. Animators trace over motion picture footage frame by frame. So I think we're going to wind up seeing essentially the same movie, but it's going to be animated. And I wonder if they'll throw in a little flair.
Showtime! Woo! Woo! Woo!
It'll be a fun, different way to watch the film. And I think, even though I haven't done it yet, it would be more fun to watch it that way than with the cleaned up Ultra HD 4K clean whatever version.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day is coming up too, isn't it? I feel like I've seen a couple places have announced that they're showing Texas Chainsaw Massacre soon.
It's an August date.
August 18th for a one-night showing, on Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day. believe the Capitol Theater in Burlington, Iowa is one of the places that's showing it. Oh, it's a new 4K restoration. Can't they show it in the old VHS shitty restoration?
Exactly. Completely, well, not completely unrelated. I saw this goofy ass random out of the blue reel popped on my feed, and it was an old clip from, remember SCTV, where John Candy and Rick Moranis and all of them got their start. It was like a Canadian SNL kind of. And they did this little skit that was called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it was John Candy. You would recognize the guy and you would recognize the guy. And they walk into a chainsaw store with baseball bats and they just beat the shit out of chainsaws and then they leave. It was so weird and random.
The thing I see here that's really cool is screenings will be accompanied by an exclusive sneak peek at Chain Reactions, an upcoming documentary exploring the film's pop culture impact. That'd be interesting to check out. I'd like to make it over August 18th to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the Capitol. Have a Bloody Mary, something that pairs with the movie.
What's that bar next to the Capitol? The Nightcap?
The Nightcap.
Are they open during the day?
I think they open at like 5 o'clock.
Are they vampires?
I don't believe so. Maybe. I don't know.
Do you remember that movie Vamp with Grace Jones and the strippers from the 80s?
That was in a nightclub.
They served Bloody Marys.
Really?
Once again, dad jokes rule because it was strippers, vampires, and I'm sure one of them was named Mary. Yeah, sorry that my jokes are so poor.
My friends at TerrorVision, I was going to say gave me these films, but I paid for them. We got Shoestring Slashers Part 2 that includes Blood Symbol, Blood Spell, and this one caught my eye because of the name, Night of the Dribbler. I was like, what the fuck's Night of the Dribbler? So I look it up, and it's a 1990 shot on video, maybe just the low budget. I'll give you a synopsis. A poorly performing college basketball team lose their best players one by one to death and dismemberment at the hands of a mysterious masked stalker. It sounds like it's made by the same people that made Haunted Ween.
Oh, God.
It's got a 3.1 out of 10 stars on IMDb. And then the next thing they sent me, 90s Nightmares, Hell Spa, Lady of the Lake, and Mountain Fury. And I have no fucking clue what any of those are about, but I do like the packaging.
Is this from TerrorVision, you said?
Yeah.
They need to hurry up and release the My Bloody Valentine package.
I think that's almost done. I know that Gator Bait and Student Bodies is coming soon.
Well, I know that it's close to being done because how I know anything about this, if you guys remember multiple episodes back, I talked about it and I had the money to get it, but I bought with the same amount of money supplies for psychotherapy. And I talked in an episode about, oh, it would be cool if someone got this for me. Of course, I was just kidding. Well, Rebecca and Rob separately heard me and each got me one. Rebecca just told me she got a notification that everything's set and ready to go with it, but they're waiting on the Canadian hardcover package or something like that. It's being produced in Canada. And once that happens and gets over, they'll send them out. So it should be soon.
Yeah, they're by far my favorite. Well, maybe Arrow is, but I have a lot of their stuff. But TerrorVision, I like what they do, but they're a super small company. It's like a mom and pop shop. So it takes them longer to get stuff out. When they get it, they make sure it's up to their standards before they just throw it out there. So I'm happy to wait and be surprised when I get stuff. Then the other thing I grabbed, Scream Magazine. Let's see, when's this one? I'm going to see the fucking date on this one. Probably covered up by the tag. I don't know, but it's got A Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. I feel like I had this one already. Hell, I don't know. New Scream Magazine.
I'm guessing The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires is a Brian Clark piece. While you're looking, I'll tell a Brian Clark story. And it ties in with what you just said about TerrorVision being a mom and pop and taking their time. So I recently have been working with Brett Royer from Brett, Tony, Ash, and Abe to get some of his books to sell at Gruesome Gifts. Brian Clark reached out and he says, oh, I see. You're going to have Brett's books, but not my books. And I says, I'm getting to it. Trust me, you're on my list. I just haven't had any time. He's like, oh, what, you're busy? I think I started a gang war within the PFPN.
All right, wise guys. Now you listen to me. You hoodlums don't own these streets. And I've had all the rough house I'm gonna put up with around here. You wanna kill each other? Kill each other. But you ain't gonna do it at my beat.
I don't see Brian Clark's name in the contributors, but I do see Justin Beam's name.
Oh, well, Brian must have been too busy bitching at me online to have time to write an article for this issue of Scream. The title just screamed, no pun intended, screamed Brian Clark to me. I just kind of assumed.
Usually it's right there in the front, like it says written by. No, words by Simon Ballard. Ooh, look at that. Natural Thorn Killers? Creeping Guide to Plant Horror. Night of the Triffids on there.
Oh, I'm glad you showed me, because if you forgot, this is an audio podcast, so the listeners can't look at that.
They can't see it. I could show it to them later. And then I'll have to share this because the cover to this is just fucking badass. Fangoria, Volume 2, number 32. Got Gillian Anderson, Bloody Big Baby, Onslaught, and Clive Barker's Hellraiser Revival. And that artwork's just beautiful.
It's very beautiful. I love the colors of that cover. It almost looks like Pinhead is embossed there. Run your hands over that. Is it flat or is he...
Yeah, it's kind of embossed a little bit.
Okay, yeah, you can see it, so it gives it some depth.
In the back. Look at that.
Ooh, big freight rags thing in the back. Gillian Anderson, when you went and saw Evil Dead Burn in the theaters, was there a trailer for this movie she's in? What the fuck was that?
I have no idea what it's about.
Holy Lord. An aging actress who starred in a bunch of Friday the 13th style films, but then it gets weird. She's trying to lure people and recreate the movies by actually killing people, but then it turns into some weird third dimension acid trip hallucination. What the fuck?
Yeah, and she's in a new commercial for
the X-Files Legos.
Yeah, that's one reason we'll be poor, because I will try to pick that up. That wasn't a trailer for when I saw Evil Dead Burn, but I do have a list of trailers to share when we start to talk about the movie. I'm sure I've thrifted other shit, but I think that's all I have close to me. I'm in the middle of turning my office into a baby's room and all that good stuff.
So you've got more to say about the trailers that you saw for Evil Dead Burn than you do Evil Dead Burn. Interesting. I cannot wait to get to that part of this conversation. Real quick before we get there, on this go around of
Shut up and take my money.
Skybound Entertainment. They posted recently, this is actually back on June 18th, says there is a reason Disney paid $4 billion for a comic book company in 2009, and it wasn't the comics. They turned the $4 billion Marvel acquisition into $54 billion in value by owning the IP, distributing through global platforms, and monetization through games and merchandise. Now you can invest in a $700 million company that's doing the same thing for major global franchises like Invincible and The Walking Dead. I know I say this all the time, and I've gotten to the point where I never do it, but I swear on my father's grave, I will share this article to the I Like It Spooky Horror Podcast Facebook page. At the bottom of it is a link where you can get more information if you are interested in investing. Long story short, Skybound is looking, I don't know if they are going public or if they were public. I haven't looked into it too much, but they're an established name and they're looking for people to invest in their company to help them grow. We talk about where we're going to spend our money. We never talk about really investing unless we're talking about backing like a Kickstarter. And so this is by no means me endorsing them. What do they say? The disclaimers. The I Like It Spooky Horror Podcast and Clint Tasty are not responsible for any money that may be lost during this transaction. I just thought it was an interesting way to potentially invest money and maybe worth a look. I know I plan on checking it out.
There's one other news thing that I was told about a couple weeks ago when I was at QC FrightCon, and it just kind of slipped my mind. It was a busy weekend. And then I saw a flyer for it today. And this is something that we'll have to keep an eye on. But a local group of kids is filming a zombie film with the help of the public library and some people in town. And it's called Lucid. I don't know details, but I know they're having tryouts here soon. I think before this episode comes out, like July 28th. But I was like, how cool is that there's a group of kids, local, anywhere in the world actually, that are filming a zombie movie.
And it's through the local library. I mean, that's community outreach right there. That's a super cool thing.
So that's definitely something that we'll need to keep an eye on. And when it comes out, check it out and talk about it. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a short or a full length or what it is, but it sounds like it's fun. And it's that indie spirit that we love so much.
Well, I tell you what, invest your long-term cash in potential horror and pop culture enterprises, and definitely invest in your local horror community, and most definitely invest in our sponsor.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Hey there, people of the creepy persuasion. Clint here with a public service announcement to let you know that Gruesome Gifts is now open at Haunting in the Hills, where you can stop in at 7205 US 12 in the Irish Hills area of Onstead, Michigan, every Friday from 5 to 9, Saturday from 2 to 8, or Sunday from noon to 4, and shop everything from Ink Mirrors merch to rare and autographed pieces for my personal collection.
So now that we've heard from our sponsor, it's time for the movie. Released July 10th, 2026. It's the, what is this? Fifth installment? 3, 4, 5, sixth installment.
7th if you count Ash vs. Evil Dead.
8 if you count the Lee Cronin's The Mummy.
Yeah, and then let's go 8.5 because there was the episode of Creepshow Television. Oh, wait. We could go 8 3/4 because Jason was a deadite in Jason Goes to Hell.
You said 8 3/4.
And 3/4.
Movie in the Evil Dead series. And I'm going to say it now, by far the worst fucking film in the series.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. But like I said earlier, I am going to be objective. There are a few things that I liked about this movie. There is a whole lot I did not care for. I wish I did not go to the theater to see this. So why don't we just start at the beginning and kind of work our way through?
So directed by a French filmmaker. He did a spider horror film called Infested. I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
Apparently that's what attracted Sam Raimi to him, was that movie.
Sam Raimi is a producer. Bruce Campbell is an executive producer. I mean, it cost $20 million and it's made 51, so it's made its money back. I know the French people love this extreme horror, and I got maybe 3/4 of the way through the movie and thought to myself, this guy watched 2013 Evil Dead and was like, I want to do that movie. He was a fan of that.
I get why you say that, but I disagree. I don't think he's ever watched any Evil Dead anything. He completely missed the mark on the whole spirit of the franchise. Like I say, let's start at the beginning. It had a dual opening like Evil Dead Rise, but at least it gave some purpose to the opening of Evil Dead Rise, because if anybody who hasn't seen it, the beginning of Evil Dead Rise, there's a deadite at this lake cabin house, which really had nothing to do with the story. And then if I remember correctly, I think that came back around at the end of the movie. The deadite girl was still at the lake or in the woods or something. So we open Evil Dead Burn with that lake girl deadite, which isolated, it was a fairly cool scene. I liked what they did. I liked the gore. Did not like how apparently now deadites can boil a whole lake with just a touch of their hands. The construct of humans somehow surviving is rather void at this point if they're doing stuff like that. And then that had very little to do with the rest of the movie.
Well, and I didn't know deadites. I always thought it was the book and the chant that brought the deadite to life, but now it's the weapon brings them back. I didn't know that was a thing.
No, and that's the other thing is Sebastian, I don't have his last name in front of me, but he really disregarded a lot of the rules of this franchise. I think it just made everything confusing, and I think it pissed a lot of people off, and it's one of the reasons it did not feel even like an ode to an Evil Dead movie. So the movie opens with that whole lake scene, and then you see, I thought this character was going to have a story arc and become the new Ash character, or at least be a hero, and he didn't survive the film. Time out. Spoilers, this is a new movie. If you have not seen this movie and you want to see it before you hear us talk about it, then you're smart enough to figure that out without me telling you. But hey, stop this episode, go watch the movie. Actually, I don't encourage anybody to go see this movie.
It's probably already streaming and on sale at Walmart.
Well, I don't know when this episode comes out, but it's set to come to streaming August 4th or August 9th. So I think it coincides right with the release of this episode.
Yeah, this drops the Sunday before, August 2nd.
Okay, so it comes out a couple days after this. But yeah, so we have this Meek who I thought was going to be the hero character, and he is like an artist and he's studying his grandpa's work, and he unveils this really large package that he found on accident buried in the wall. Through what's being told, I think they say that it's supposed to be the Kandarian dagger. And apparently, and maybe they didn't, that package getting opened, that it was all wrapped up in cloth, summoned the deadites from the lake because of the power of the dagger so they could go find it. It made zero fucking sense.
And then if we're jumping towards the end, that's not the dagger I remember from any of the movies before.
No, I appreciated the archaic kind of rustic look of it, but it was tiny. There seems to be a theme going on, and I'm not some macho chauvinist or whatever, but I see this reoccurring theme of emasculation. And to me, the Kandarian dagger is this big phallical thing that saves the day because of the hero. And yet this is another movie where the hero is this extremely weak male, and all of a sudden the Kandarian dagger is about the size of my pinky, this little curved thing. And that was weird because when he pulled it from the wall, it was this giant fucking guitar case sized package. And it winds up being this little tiny painter's knife.
With all of these other weapons in it, but they're not real, I gather. Because at one point, towards the end, Alice, who is our final girl, is stabbing one of the Deadites with it. And they're like, nope, wrong knife, wrong knife, wrong knife. And then she finally uses the one that's the little, it's like a putty knife almost. And that kills the Deadite.
It was stupid. For lack of a better word, it was stupid. The actor who played the meek character, again, who I thought was going to be the hero, he was played by Hunter Doohan. He also played the Hyde monster in the Wednesday Netflix series. And like I said, not only did I expect him to have an arc and become the hero, but it was just another example, just like Obsession, where I viewed it as emasculation. But I will say, after reading and listening to multiple reviews, I kind of subscribe now to the theory that his meekness was a product of trauma and abuse. Because let's face it, that family was dysfunctional in every sense of the fucking word.
Yeah, and I almost feel like Alice did not have enough of a character arc. Like, I want her to succeed and I want her to be the next person in this lineage. They just don't give her enough. You know, I want her at some point she almost got there, but she's not quite there. Like, fuck this, fuck you, fuck the world, fuck everybody. I'm going to be a badass. I'm going to take control of my life. I'm going to take all this trauma and all this back and bottle it up and kick everyone's ass. And at the end, she just like, can I have a cigarette?
That would have been cool as hell. And that's another hallmark of this franchise, is to have that one over-the-top, hyper-stylized hero. And no, it just fell short. But, you know, I was talking about the dysfunctional family. This is one of the things that I really liked about this movie. One of the very few things. That dinner table scene was top notch in execution. It was extremely tense, and it was actually uncomfortable to watch. You were uncomfortable. It pulled you into where you're almost like a family member sitting at that table, and the dad is succumbing to the possession and the conversations, and they just lost their son, and it was just bleak and miserable. And God, it was really well done. And then out of nowhere, he stabs the shit out of the dog.
Yeah. So if you do not like animal death or animal torture, the dog gets killed 2 or 3 times, I think, in the movie. So we haven't gone into a synopsis yet.
There is one?
Yeah. Following the sudden death of her abusive husband in a car crash, Alice reluctantly joins her estranged, hostile in-laws at a secluded lake house for his cremation. The somber family gathering quickly mutates into a family reunion from hell when a lingering demonic curse takes hold. One by one, family members are possessed as deadites, forcing Alice to confront both her living trauma and the ultimate forces of evil. That was another thing. At the beginning, when he gets in the car accident, her husband, ex-husband, whatever he is, she's a widow now, the deadite starts reciting the fucking words to the book. So that starts the deadite thing? I didn't know they could do that either.
Sebastian broke all the rules of this franchise, and not in a good way. Going along with what you're saying, first off, there's a scene where she discovers the Book of the Dead and she's reading the incantation, and you see the camera panning forward and shaking and everything, and she never finishes the incantation, but it doesn't matter, and the possessions still take place. In this movie, the Deadites are almost more interested in self-harm than attacking the living, which again breaks the rule, because in Possession in general, and especially in the Evil Dead franchise, when the vessel, the human body, is destroyed, there is no host for the Kandarian demon to inhabit. And in this movie, you've got the dad out there shooting himself in the head 3 or 4 times with the revolver for no apparent reason. And I thought, you're ruining your vessel.
Because he would be dead. He wouldn't survive that in real life. Just like the girlfriend didn't survive the dishwasher to the forehead 50 times. And what makes him possessed? Because at one point, a deadite bleeds all over Alice's face, into her mouth, into her eyes, into everything. She's not possessed. But then I think at another point, one scratches somebody and then they become possessed.
That goes right along with Sebastian. Broke all the fucking rules. Deadites are not vampires. They're not zombies. They don't need permission to come in through the window, like in the Salem's Lot inspired scene in the grandma's room. They're not transferred through bites or scratches, nor are they transferred like a communicable disease, like how the grandma was turned, where the possessed girlfriend takes grandma's dentures out and puts it in her mouth and puts it back. And so now grandma's possessed. This is not an Evil Dead movie. It is not an Evil Dead movie. I wouldn't even enjoy this if it was just The Lake House, family trauma, whatever the title of the movie is. It has no soul. It was flat. It was dark, not in context, but in visuals. It was just monotone. It was boring. It was uninspired. Sebastian tried so hard to do something different with the franchise that he didn't realize it wasn't unique at all, because all he was doing was recycling ideas from other fucking subgenres.
I saw it in a theater at 4:45 on a Wednesday. I was the only one in the theater. I got up 3 times to go take a piss because I was like, I'm not going to miss nothing. The story's not moving anywhere. The things I want from this franchise, I got a little bit in Rise, and I got hardly any of it in this movie. And I just don't know why no one's getting to what I want.
Evil Dead Rise did a good job, in my opinion, of expanding on the universe. There's 3 books. There's audio recordings. It took us to a new location. We're trapped in a high-rise, which I saw a lot of people say they didn't care for that. I enjoyed it. It reminded me of Demons 2. But again, Sebastian, it was like he was trying to reinvent the wheel. And the wheel on this machine moves just fine. He even foregoed another staple of this franchise, which is all the over-the-top blood. He talked about how he didn't want to use all that.
Well, and the thing about it is, I understand the 3-book thing, but this film ties back to the original series, because those recordings are from the cabin, right?
I think so, but it was a different professor. It wasn't Professor Noby, but they made it sound like there was a secret society, which, if I remember correctly, I think the secret society they were talking about of guardian humans to protect the book and the dagger was referenced in Ash vs. Evil Dead and was formed from Army of Darkness from the medieval times and carried through the generations. So I think Professor Noby and the grandpa who we never see were all part of the same society and maybe guarding different books and different Kandarian daggers, which I don't care if it was different or not. The fact the one in Evil Dead 2 is this giant, cool looking thing with skulls, and this one was a little painter's knife is dumb.
Yeah, because you'd have to get within like an inch of a deadite to stab it. It's kind of useless. That's what I want, though. I want to go back to the time where those daggers were formed, this society was formed, and not get a campy. As much as I love Army of Darkness, I want a dark take on what Rise brought up. This secret society fighting to protect the book, to form this bond, to form these weapons. A period piece set in this dark, nasty time where the plague's going on and all these things. It's almost like, oh, we're fucked. I only lived till I'm 30 years old anyway because people die so early. Now I have this new thing, evil force that's forming that I have to fight. No one's giving me that. You know, they just keep throwing it in current times and a family at the lake house and blah, 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 blah.
Now, Evil Dead Wrath just wrapped and is coming out in 2027 sometime. And that is supposed to be a prequel to the original 1981 Evil Dead movie. So it's not going to be the period piece that you're specifically talking about, but I'm wondering if we're going to explore some more of that, where maybe through flashbacks or reading of the texts and deciphering stuff, if we'll get some visuals of that or, you know, some mention of that. I think it'd be cool. I just hope to God that it goes back, because one of the calling cards is Evil Dead, even in 2013, was it's got just that little bit of camp, just a lot of fun blood. It doesn't take itself so fucking seriously where you can enjoy it. Oh, God, I hate this movie.
I did laugh a couple times out loud. I don't know that I was supposed to. Maybe I was just so over the seriousness of this film that I found humor in places I shouldn't have. In the end, that fucking cut scene at the very end. Why? I don't fucking need it. I don't care.
As far as the comedy, it was all ill-timed, and the attempts fell solely upon the grandma. There was nothing else that was even remotely tongue-in-cheek. Before the cut scene, there was one other scene that I thought that was super cool in the movie, and I really liked the chaos of the scene where Alice, our heroine, was crawling on the floor and the deadite is flinging the mom and the son all over the room. That was a cool shot. But again, it wasn't Evil Dead, but it was fun to watch.
cut a couple things out of this movie, maybe 5 minutes, and you showed somebody this movie, they wouldn't even know it was Evil Dead.
No, and this movie could actually be like a half hour short and tell the same story and get the same stuff across.
Yeah, and there's things that happen, and I'm like, well, what the fuck was the point of that? They had the one girl locked up in the basement, and she touches the furnace and lights it, and it's super hot. And I'm like, what the fuck? They're little warm upstairs. They're like going like this. What the fuck's the point of that? It never came back around to that.
No, and then she breaks through the door in a scene from The Shining.
Here's Johnny.
That was something too, is Sebastian, you could see influences from other movies. There were things in that opening scene that reminded me of Jaws. You had that. Of course, you had all the Easter eggs they try to toss in, which in this movie seemed like it was just an attempt to appease Evil Dead fans. Bruce Campbell's picture was on the wall if you're going up the stairs. The car, when they're driving away from the house and the dad is possessed and he attacks him in the car, it falls into a giant mud puddle like Ash from Evil Dead 2. There was some other things, but it was just, God, it was so poorly executed.
Did you talk about the knife?
The carving knife from 2013.
I think there was Henrietta's Pizza at one point in the background.
Yep, I remember that.
The names for the characters are all from actors in previous films. Yeah, Professor Nobi they talked about him in this one. So I think it's the same professor or they reference him somehow.
I didn't catch that. I caught them referencing the grandpa in this movie who was Professor So-and-so, but it wasn't Nobi, I thought. Well, I'll never find out because I'm not going to go back and watch this movie. You know something else this movie had that no other Evil Dead movie had? This ridiculous final boss, Vecna ripoff, now Deadite husband in the ultimate terrible CGI Terminator 2 influenced battle, which culminates with some terrible, ill-fitting music to the movie. Just terrible.
Why waste all that time doing all that great practical effects? The effects in this film were good, I thought, until that fucking bad CGI, awful final, whatever the fuck you call it.
I'm not against shock cinema, and I'm not so story-driven that I get pretentious, but Sebastian's focus was, let's make a car wreck that people can't turn away from. He didn't give a fuck about the story, and it's a car wreck that you can turn away from. There were two scenes where the gore was fun. One you already talked about, where the girlfriend's head gets bashed in with the dishwasher cover, and then the possessed dad takes his son's face and buries it into the smashed face. And then there was a scene where the possessed dad is making out. They're like deep porn slobber kissing with the mom. And his head's all shot. And they were gross. And it was fun because it was gross. But even then, the coloring was all muted. It wasn't fun blood. It was just, everything was black. It was just terrible.
She says, that was one of the times I laughed. You haven't kissed me like that in years or something stupid. I'm like, well, he's a fucking deadite with his brains blown out. What do you expect?
Hey, you just busted out your 1-900 call Brian voice. Hi, I'm Brian.
Jesus, I have no reason to go back and watch this film. I could watch Rise and skip right over this one and see what's next.
But wait, there's more. You just talked about it a second ago, the post-credit scenes. There was a post-credit scene that was as senseless as the movie with the grandma. And then the post-credit scene was even worse than the fucking movie. They decided to bring Ellie back from Rise, which is impossible because she was put through a fucking
tree grinder.
Yeah, a wood chipper. So I found out that Ellie scene was pushed by the studio execs. They were nearing the end of making this movie, and it was like, we got to do this. We want to bring back a fan favorite. And I will give Sebastian credit for this and one other thing. I don't agree with Sebastian's vision or take for this movie on this franchise at all. But he stuck true to his vision, and I will give him credit for that. Who am I to tell him what to make and what not to make? I completely disagree with what he did, but he did what he did, and he stuck to it. And also with that post-credit scene with Ellie, they railroaded it in last minute. And he said, fine, but if it's going to be done, he says, I'm going to do it. You're not going to have a second unit do it because I want to maintain the look and the integrity of his project, which again, I respect. I don't agree with it because it was terrible, but.
Does this still stack up with this film being part of this series as probably the best horror franchise around? I mean, I can't think of another franchise that, even with this film, it's still probably easily the best horror franchise.
I'm not going to say the best because there's so many metrics. You judge what's the best. One of my favorites? Yes. I will just pretend this movie didn't exist. Did you watch the credits? You watched the post-credit scenes. Did you really watch the credits? I'm watching the credits and it said caterers, doof doof. Right after that, it said editorial, ice cream. I'm not making this shit up, folks. I'm like, what the fuck is doof doof and ice cream? I don't get it.
I watched the credits, but by the time the credits rolled around, I was so over the film, I just wanted to go home. But I knew there was cutscenes because I'd heard, so I had to stay for those. And then when I left, I said to the guy, it should be clean in there. I only dropped one piece of popcorn, and I was the only person in there. And I picked up that piece of popcorn, so you shouldn't have much to do.
He's like, thanks for the conversation, weirdo. Well, I stayed after the movie for a good hour in the parking lot and just went off about it. I was just bitching about it.
And it's weird. There was the weed whacker that's from 2013, right?
Honestly, I don't remember.
The big whacker with the big metal blade on it.
I don't remember that. When I think of the weed whacker and the big round saw blade on there, I think of Friday the 13th Part 7.
Oh, okay, yeah. But there was a chainsaw, but it kind of just moved and never came into play because the jackhammer fell instead.
That was another thing I was going to say is, look, bullshit. And I'm not saying I'm a man, so I can pick up a jackhammer and she had a vagina, so she can't. But I will tell you from experience that, I mean, I'm not, a pro wrestler, but I'm not a schlep either. And it takes a lot of upper body strength to run a fucking jackhammer. If you're going to try to kill people and kill deadites and protect yourself, you're going to go for the chainsaw. Again, he was trying so fucking hard to be different. It was just fucking stupid.
I probably couldn't pick up a jackhammer and hold it vertical like that and run it. No way. It would be right to my fucking foot. It would fall down and go right through my foot.
They're heavy and they're awkward. And speaking of something else that's ill-fitting, there was no reason to go on about her being French. I know he's a French filmmaker, but she's from Paris, was referenced multiple times. Throughout the movie, she speaks in French in their subtitles. It had nothing to do with the fucking story. It didn't propel the story, didn't add to the story. It was just annoying.
Yeah, it's not like it's her family that's the professor and we're going to go back to France. It's his family. And I hope Grandpa wasn't an asshole like Dad and the son, because that just pulls it down a level. I want the Grandpa to be a good person, but...
It sounds like the family trauma came from Grandpa was gone because he was always tied up in protecting the world from the evil of the Evil Dead. And then so Mom probably made a poor choice in a husband because she had daddy issues. And so she married an asshole husband, and then she had to take care of her mom who had dementia and all this crap that just was, who cares?
I have trauma from watching this movie.
I have severe trauma from watching this movie. I wish I would have hit record. When I got done on my rant, Rebecca looks at me and she says, we should have recorded that. You didn't have to record an episode. Just play that. Because I did. I was just firing shit off.
Are we going to rate it?
I'm excited to rate this.
You are?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm very excited to rate this because it's a first time. It's a first time for me on this show.
So 6 is 5 watchable?
5 to me has always been middle of the road. So if something's a 5, it's like, you know what? I'm not going to actively seek this out. But if it's on, I'll check it out. It had some redeeming qualities. It was mildly entertaining. Anything below that is kind of like, nah.
Ooh, I'm going to go a 4 out of 10 denture licking parties because that was fucking pointless and gross. I don't know why. I don't get it. Now she's a deadite.
It's not even that I don't get this movie because it isn't made for me. We've talked a lot about that, especially with newer movies coming out. We're getting older and we have our certain subgenres and types of films that we like. And so we're kind of half-assed smart enough to realize, oh, this movie isn't made for me. This movie's made for nobody. This movie was just specifically made to try to be as different as possible. And it fell so far off the fucking mark that I hope it gets erased from the Evil Dead timeline. Real quick, I forgot to bring up, if you're a fan of Ash vs. Evil Dead, the series, which in my opinion is one of the best entries, 3 seasons in the franchise, there's a character in there named Ruby, and Ruby had a house, and it was in Elk Grove, Michigan, I think. I'm pretty sure this is the same house. If not, it looks just like it. I saw some theories. I didn't read too much into it. I don't understand how it would work in timelines. Maybe they just did it to throw one of those weird little Easter eggs in that means absolutely nothing like everything else in this movie, but I wanted to mention that. So you went 4?
Yeah, and that's probably way too high for this film, but I'm trying to be nice.
Well, I'm not going to be nice. Do you remember my lowest rated movie on my history of being on this show? It was Demoniacs, and I was going to give it a 2, and you guys talked me up to a 4, I think, or a 4.5.
You rated Tim Ritter higher than Demoniacs?
Initially, I wasn't going to, but you guys talked me into it.
You guys, I'm the only person on the show besides you.
No, because Brian Clark was on that episode with Demoniacs.
Well, Demoniacs.
Yeah, the Tim Ritter episode, you couldn't talk me up. The Truth or Dare critical consequence. I did bump it up a point just because I knew it was celebrated by you as your entry to horror, so I respected that, so I went up a little bit. This is one huge fucking mistake out of 10. This is one car wreck that you can look away from. I hate to get on here and bash stuff, especially trying to follow your Camp Crystal Lake shut the fuck up video. But I'm not going to lie. I had high hopes for this. It's Evil Dead, so I thought I was going to love it. I'm not going to go on here and try to talk something up because I think that's one of the reasons we keep getting fed so much garbage because people are afraid to tell the truth or maybe my truth. And I want to respect the fact that he's a filmmaker. He's made this feature film. I haven't. I could go on and repeat all the shit I do. A movie made is something I've never done, but I'm not going to stand to be forced this mediocre bullshit and celebrate it. There needs to be a stop to it. And this was absolutely terrible. One huge mistake out of 10.
Yeah, I would watch Iron Lung twice before I'd watch this. And I did not enjoy that.
I would watch a double feature of Demoniacs and Truth or Dare Critical Consequence.
Before you'd watch this?
I'll never watch this movie again. I am never going to watch this movie again.
If you would like to, there's a 4K Ultra HD Steelbook that looks like it's coming towards the end of the year, December. And it's got some director commentary, the gore of Burn, featurette, deleted scenes. Same thing for a 4K UHD digital with all of that same shit, and a Evil Dead 2 film collection on 4K that sounds like later in the year with Evil Dead Rise. And I would imagine if the next film ties into this, you'll get a 3-pack. You'll get the trilogy of the new Evil Dead films.
Not to mention, like we talked about earlier, it's going to be coming out on streaming August 4th or 9th. Hey, that's really weird. Oh, no, it's August 2nd and 9th are actor auditions at Hunting in the Hills. Cheap plug. Ding. Look, I want to go on record, too, that I do not hate this film because Bruce isn't in it. I don't hate this film because they tried to do something a little different with it. I hate this film because they went so far off the mark and didn't have the respect of the franchise to stay within certain parameters. Like I said, Evil Dead Rise played with those parameters a little bit. They knew their lane and they expanded upon it, and it was awesome. But I don't need Bruce. I love Bruce, but I have been dying for a prequel. I have been dying for a film or a continuation of Ash vs. Evil Dead, where the character they introduce in Ash vs. Evil Dead, his daughter, becomes the new him. I can't remember her name, character or actress name, but she was amazing. I have been dying for a Ghost Beaters continuation with Pablo and Lorenzo, or you know what I'm talking about. So it's not that Ash isn't in this. It's just that he's strayed so far. Before we go to our podcast network, who I would rate higher than a 1 on most days, everybody's going to be different. Brian, I want to ask you, out of all the Evil Dead entries, we'll just stick to the 7, not the Jason Goes to Hell and not the Creep Show episode and all that. How would you rate from 1 to 7? Like what's your top Evil Dead entry and what's your bottom? Oh, well, we know the bottom.
Oh, well, this is the bottom. I like the second one probably the most just because it's a cleaned up version of the first. They had a little more money. They had a little more humor, I feel like. And then probably Army of Darkness. So Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 1, the 2013 one. I really enjoy that one. And that is one good thing about this film. It made me want to go back and revisit the 2013 film. I was like, I need to rewatch that again. So then it would be Rise and then Burn. I guess the series is in there, but I haven't watched the whole series. I just know what I've watched of it is really good. So I would imagine it's probably better than Rise and Burn and probably on the same level of the 2013. So I would imagine it falls somewhere in that 3 to 4 range because Army of Darkness is my favorite. I'm that weird person that loves that film the most out of this series.
I found out about that. It was supposed to be more about Ash's time at the store.
That's right. Shop smart. Shop S-smart.
I think a lot of the things that it was supposed to be wound up being in the series. I think it was going to be a little more serious than the series because the series was just so much fun. But the studio didn't want a third entry, and so they repackaged, we're going to make this medieval film and kind of snuck everything in there. Well, again, I know everybody's going to be different. My number one for me, Evil Dead 2. Number 2, Ash vs. Evil Dead. And I would put Ash vs. Evil Dead as number 1, but you wouldn't have that without Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2013, Evil Dead the original, and that's hard to put that so far down the list. Evil Dead Rise, Army of Darkness, and Evil Dead Burn.
Well, at least it's Army of Darkness is better than Rise.
No, it's not. Evil Dead Rise to me was better than Army of Darkness. I don't get into medieval stuff. And to me, the comedy was too far comedy with the Three Stooges. It was fun, but it
went almost as far out of the universe as this film does.
Not quite as far, but in the opposite direction.
Weirdly, for some people, that one works. I don't know that this is going to work for anybody. I'm sure there are people who are going to enjoy this and like this. I've talked to a couple people that like this film. It's fine for them. Good for you. I'm happy you enjoyed it. I didn't. I'm going to watch The Greasy Strangler tonight and probably Night of the Dribbler or whatever and have fun with those.
One last side note. I can't remember if I said this earlier or not, but Hollywood Horror Nights, they have an Evil Dead Burn attraction coming to Hollywood Horror Nights.
They're just going to fucking turn the AC off and you got to walk through the house.
You got to watch the movie. No AC. They're going to turn the heat up and you got to watch the movie. That's the scariest thing I can think of.
Welcome to hell, motherfucker!
And I also saw that the director, Sebastian, I keep forgetting his last name, wants to do his version of The Mask.
I saw that.
Now that I think could be fun. Again, I don't hate this guy. I just hate what he did with the franchise and this entry to it. I think The Mask is more up his alley, and I think he would do good with that.
I think that would be fun. You imagine the mask going on somebody and then whatever Jim Carrey character, the mask, whatever you call him, peels off that mask off somebody and their face is gone, peels their whole face off.
That'd be fun. See, and that's not an established property, so there's really no rules there. You can create your own universe there out of that. Speaking of universes.
I was going to say, speaking of established properties, but are they established?
They're in a universe of their own. Well, we're part of that universe. Let's listen to our podcast network, the PFPN.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
So now that we've heard from our podcast network, it's time for some recommendations. So if you enjoyed this film, I'm not sure what to recommend because I fucking didn't. So I'm just going to give you films that I enjoy that are, I guess, kind of like it. From 2023, Evil Dead Rise. I mean, it's the direct precursor to Burn.
It's probably the closest in style to this film.
Focuses on two estranged sisters and a crumbling Los Angeles high-rise whose reunion is cut short by the rise of flesh-possessing demons. I'd never made that connection. That was about family and dysfunction also. Is that the new Evil Dead story?
I guess so.
From 2013, Evil Dead. It's Freddy Alvarez's ultra-gory, straight-faced reimagining of the original film where five friends at a remote cabin face off against the Necronomicon's terrifying curse. I don't know that any of them were related.
Are all of your recommendations going to be things in the Evil Dead franchise?
No. From 2020, The Dark and the Wicked. On a secluded farm, two siblings gather to say goodbye to their dying father, only to realize a sinister demonic presence is slowly taking over their grieving family. So maybe it's all about grieving families? The Sadness? That's ultra gory, ultra violent. That's from 2021.
And it's one of those shock movies, but that filmmaker had a better grasp of the story.
Yeah, but it also let me down because at points I was like, if you're going to talk about a zombie skull fucking somebody, just show the goddamn thing.
Well, they did.
They didn't show it.
Well, it was softcore porn way. I mean, it's not like the camera cut away and you saw a shadow on the wall. You saw it. You just didn't XXX see it. God, you pervert. You sick, weird pervert.
It's a virus mutates, turning the infected people into sadistic, uninhabited killers who act on their worst impulses, which happens to be sex.
Sex and violence. It was often sexual and very violent, and yeah, they were zombies.
And then the last one, and this film came up the other day, and I thought, God, more people need to see this. We covered this on the podcast. I don't know that it fits, but I just want people to know about it and bring it up again. From 2015, Baskin.
Yeah, because even though that was very different, and we talked a lot, and I almost in this talking about Evil Dead, I was going to bring up maybe it's because it's a French filmmaker and he just didn't have a good grasp of this American property. Because hey, Evil Dead is as American as you can get. It's from Michigan State University and the hills of Kentucky. Is it Kentucky or Tennessee? Tennessee. So I thought maybe that was part of it, lost in translation. But Baskin, even though some things were lost in translation to us, I remember we talked about that because it's a Turkish film. It was still really well done.
Squad of unsuspecting police officers answers a call at an abandoned building, unknowingly descending straight into a surreal, nightmarish gateway to hell.
And I remember on Father's Day, you sent me a picture of Father and said, Happy Father's Day. If you've seen the movie, you would get the joke. Was it a GIF? It was a Giphy or whatever?
I think it was. And then
it's crazy.
From 1987, one for the kids, The Gate. It's essentially Evil Dead for kids.
There is a passageway to the most evil place you can imagine. A gate behind which the demons wait to take back what was once theirs.
The parents are away. Two young boys and a sister accidentally open a demonic portal in their backyard. And it's got them cute little whatever they are. I don't even know what the fuck those things are called.
I think they were just called demons. Yeah, I never thought about that. But yeah, Gate is kind of Evil Dead Jr. Weenie Hut Jr.
My friends don't hang out at Weenie Hut Jr.'s.
What do you got?
Well, and speaking of kids and Evil Dead, so I just ordered from my friend Steve, who is the artist and runs Scream Prints, screamprints.com. And he does a lot of cartoon mashup prints as well as other artistic drawings, and it's mostly horror related. I bought some of his prints to sell at Gruesome Gifts, and one of them is a Scooby-Doo Evil Dead mashup where they're all sitting around reading the Necronomicon and ashes in the background. That's a fun piece, and there's going to be some prints from Scream Prints at Gruesome Gifts. But first of all, if this was your introduction to the Evil Dead franchise, please go watch anything else in the Evil Dead franchise other than this and explore it. And maybe you'll be like, man, these guys are dicks. They're bashing on this movie and saying how terrible it is. And different strokes for different folks. We talk about that all the time. But I'm hoping that if this is your introduction, you go explore some of the other stuff and you might go, oh, now I know why they said that, because this other stuff is so much better. If you like this movie, then I think you would really enjoy, made for the Sci-Fi Channel, Return of the Living Dead Necropolis and Return of the Living Dead Rave to the Grave. Necropolis was super serious. Rave to the Grave was the complete opposite, but both of them were flat, terrible, tasteless, just for the sake of it fucking movies.
No, thank you. I mean, it's hard for us because we're horror movie fans. And I mean, there's franchises in horror movies that have been going on for, I mean, there's 12 Friday the 13th films. There's how many Halloween films. And there's always people that like part 5 or part 6 or part 7 or part 8 or part 10 in Friday the 13th. And then in Halloween, it's, what is it, like the 5th and 6th one that people bag on and others love. So if this is your favorite in the franchise, I'm glad you enjoy it, because I like part 5 in Friday the 13th. And most people are like, well, that's stupid. It's not even Jason in that movie. I get it, but I enjoy it.
Listen, you can't try to PR yourself out of this. Okay? You post a video about if you talk shit about the Crystal Lake series, you can just shut the fuck up.
Why no? But those people haven't even seen it yet.
And then all right, I'll give you that. And then we sit here and bash this terrible fucking movie. And you're like, well, if you like it, it's okay.
It would have to be pretty bad to be the worst thing in the Friday the 13th franchise, right?
This isn't Friday the 13th. It's Evil Dead.
Well, no, but the new series would have to be like really bad to be the worst thing in that.
Oh. Yeah, because again, like you're saying, it's different for everybody. I think probably the worst entry in that franchise for me is part 3. And probably the second worst entry in that franchise for me is part 5. But also Jason 10 might take precedent over that.
Seeing a lot of people love Jason Goes to Space.
Right. It's fun. I remember when I left the theater, it was the first time I ate nachos at a theater. I don't know why I remember that, because they were terrible. I was like, man, this movie's about as bad as these fucking nachos.
But you got nachos at a movie theater for the first time.
I wish I didn't have. Didn't have? I wish I didn't.
What's next?
Hold on. So we just said recommendations, right? So I ate those nachos and I watched that movie. And much like when I watched Evil Dead Burn, I went outside very loudly and screamed for an hour. What the fuck is going on?
So I, of course, still have the double feature in Burlington, August 22nd. That's like 20 days away from the release of this episode. So you have time to grab tickets and make some money and come shop the vendors August 22nd at the Capitol Theater in Burlington, Iowa for a double feature of Fade to Black and Popcorn. It's convention season. So I think this is the last day of... Is this the last day of Flashback in Rosemont, Illinois? It's the last day of CreepyCon in Knoxville. And then we got Midsummer Scream coming up.
Are you going to Flashback? I think you got a room, right?
I am going to go on Thursday and hit the National Sports Card Convention. I'm going to hit up Flashback Friday night, and then I think I'm going to come home Saturday and hit up a family reunion on Sunday.
Is the sports card show across the street again?
Yeah, and it's...
Really? I thought it went someplace different every year.
It's for 3 or 4 years in Chicago.
Yeah, but I thought it was at a different venue in Chicago. No?
No, they need this venue. It's freaking humongous. But our friend at Madrigal Radio, Rob, can't make the trip. You know, with everything he's had going on, he's with work and stuff. He's like, I just can't pull it off. I can't get my flights lined up. I hate to back out on you. And I was like, actually, the only reason I was going is to hang out with you. And he said, well, the only reason I was going was to hang out with you. I said, well, why don't you come to Halloween-a-Palooza in Ottumwa, Iowa in October? And then you could hang out with Justin and Rob and all these other people that you've never met. They're on the podcast network with us. It's closer to home. It's cheaper. It's more intimate. We can hang out.
Why the hell would anybody want to meet Rod? I think I'd rather go see Evil Dead Burn.
Well, I know, but you know what I mean? Like, it's in October. It's a fun convention.
No, it makes sense.
He's like, yeah, I'll pull that off. So I'm going to run right up with our old co-host, Underwood, and his family. We're going to hit up the sports card convention. We're going to hit up Flashback, and then we're going to head out on Saturday morning. Just because without you vending and having something to work and to do and a place to have home base and all that,
it's not the same.
It's not the same. There's not enough to do all weekend that I need to be there all weekend. I'm not there to work the table while you and Rebecca go out and mingle with the celebrities.
Yeah, we were mingling. Wink, wink.
Watching Joe Bob get stuck in the revolving door.
Oh, that was funny. Charles Band saved the day and got him out of the oscillating door. Yeah, Rob and Rebecca were trying to talk me into going. I'm like, look, I guys, I want to. I want to go. I want to go do this stuff. I'm tired of not traveling, but I just can't. I cannot. I am hoping that things get to a point to where I can. We actually hired one of our actresses to help out at Gruesome Gifts, and she's phenomenal. I've known her for years, back from the Corpse Barn days, and she does a really good job. So that's lightened up the load a little bit, but not enough for me to travel yet. I just can't do it.
Yeah, you got the haunt season coming up. That's something we have to talk about. Who's going to take your place for a couple months or a couple episodes?
I have a list.
Oh, okay.
I figured I'll talk to you about it off the air. That way, if we don't land those people for whatever reason, we don't look stupid.
We look stupid enough already.
But I have chosen my successes, and all of them are greater than me.
So what do you got? Anything coming up for you?
Yeah, well, so the day this episode airs, open auditions at Honey in the Hills. There's 2 rounds scheduled. Today, August 2nd, and that is from 1 to 4. And a week from now, August 9th, from 1 to 4. It is located at Haunting in the Hills in the Irish Hills area of Onstead, Michigan. The old Stagecoach stop, show up to the ticket booth, and it's open auditions, first come, first serve. A lot of people ask me about filling out applications. Like, no, we're going to meet first come, first serve. I take down some general information so I can run a background check and also be able to contact you. Then I kind of go over the nuts and bolts of how we operate and what we expect. And then we do a mini audition, and then we get back to you after a day or so because we all discuss it and see what might work and what might not work. And so, yeah, that's going on. Hopefully we can get enough people in these first 2 rounds to where we don't have to worry about doing any more, because there's still a shit ton of work to do out there. I mean, it'll never stop. That's about it besides all the normal shit I do all the time. I guess one more thing is Gruesome Gifts is actually starting to finally, I hope I'm not shooting myself in the foot, knock on wood, it continues, is finally starting to take off. We started out strong, and then things got really light, and we kind of had this consistent interest. We're starting to get a stronger social media presence. I'm at the point now where I'm starting to get Brett Royer's books. I got to get a hold of Brian Clark to get his stuff in there. I could go on with a list of people. I'm getting Steve Jinks screen prints in there, and that's all things that are actually happening now. So it looks like my vision for the place is starting to take a little more shape, and that's exciting, because for a minute I didn't know if it was going to work. You know, you start something new and it kind of starts to flatten out, and you're like, oh, why am I even doing this? You know, this ain't going to work. Stick with it, and it will. And if it doesn't, then you're nothing better than the director of Evil Dead Burn.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.